And now, get ready.
Keep up with Femidlive for live updates on Twitter at Femidlive, on Facebook at Femidlive, Instagram at Femidlive. All major platforms you would find Femidlive. Send your messages and email femid@live.com to keep the conversation going even now.
Talk show unravels your thinking, makes you stop to listen, engages you in a debate of opinions.
I believe this man knows what he is doing. He is a Nigerian.
And ultimately brings you to the king of talk radio, Femidlive.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I'm ready. Let's take on the biggest debates on radio, provide insights, experience, and build an unforgettable discussion together. I am Femidi Amele. Let's talk with Femidlive is on.
This is Femidlive.
Thanks for taking your time to join me this very evening. Welcome to Femidlive, and yes, it is room for debate. As you know it, this is the room where it is an extra room in the very complicated and complex world of politics. There's something there. And one thing I tell you about room for debate is it keeps getting bigger. Just because you tell somebody out there to always join us and be part of our discussion every evening. Yet again, it's another evening for us to discuss many of the crucial issues as we have it develop in the country. My name is Femidi, and welcome to the show. We begin tonight by reviewing a little bit of the big points raised in the U.S. presidential final debate yesterday evening. Oh yes, many of you listened a little bit to the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton give her own speech and set of ideas regarding why she thinks she's the ideal candidate to become president of the United States. And as well, Republican nominee Donald Trump did all he could in raising the crucial issues that he could find on his own opponent, and as well his own ideas as one would consider for him to be the president of the United States. We'll take a look at some of the key talking points there. And in days ahead, in November, soon enough, November 8th, we will get to see how the election unfolds. It's best described as one of the most safest elections around the world. And, well, yes, also very well done election. Even though at this stage, Donald Trump is starting to question the process that may lead to that very election. Also, coming up on the show tonight, have you read or have you had the chance to read what Chimamanda Adichie did say about Nigeria? And much of the review of what she described about the situation we have in the country. I didn't get the chance to read what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie had to say yesterday, but today we'll get the chance to read about what she did say. Also, coming up on the show, Dame Patience Jonathan has pretty much given a narrative as regards how I made $15 million US. Our narrative is interesting. She talks about house being burned down and a recovery process that may have led up to that cash. And also, she has put out a suit against Serap in this case. And as well, I don't want to miss out on the candidates that stood before the Senate and told them exactly the same thing he did many years ago on the reason why the Senate should be scrapped. Will he still be considered for the job? Is he qualified for the job? And many more. And of course, we'd also take a look at President Muhammadu Buhari's ambassador list. These are not career ambassadors, but they would be possibly screened, every one of them. 46 to 47 of them. I do have their names and where they do come from. We'll take a look at that as well on this show. This is the place to be. This is Room for Debate. Welcome to the show. I am Femidi Amele.
Femidlive Live.
Hold on tight. It's the weekend. The extravaganza. Real-time radio. Let's talk. With Femidlive. Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I'm ready. Let's take on the biggest debates on radio, provide insights, experience, and build an unforgettable discussion together. I am Femidi Amelie. Let's talk with Femidlive is on.
This is Femidlive.
All right then, welcome to the show. Let's start off with the list provided by the President to the Senate President earlier on today. As part of the names, he feels very comfortable, should be enlisted to serve the country around the world. Of course, President Muhammadu Buhari did send a list of 47 supposed new ambassadors to the Nigerian Senate for confirmation today. The list was announced by Bukola Saraki, who is the President of the Senate, during the upper legislative chamber meeting earlier on today, Thursday. The full list has about 46 names from different parts of Nigeria. Now, I will make an attempt to match where they do come from with the names and where they do essentially have made much of their grant form. Now, from Bayelsa State, it would have to be Brigadier General Stanley Dia, and as well from Benue State now, Dr. Inyatu Ifenem. From Borno State is Mohammed Ayatudin. And then from Cross River State, you find Dr. Etubam Asukwo listed for Cross River State. Delta State has Engineer Francis Efeduma. And then Ebonyi State has Mr. Jonah. It has Mr. Jonah Ondo as the candidate from there as well. Now, in Edo State is Uyagwa Igwe. Ekiti State is Ayodele El Ayodeji. Enugu State has Major General Chris Eze. Gombe State is Alhaji Sulaiman Azan. Jigawa State is Amin Muhammad Dahatu. And then Kaduna State, Muhammad Yaro. Another name from Kaduna State, Deborah S. Ilya. And then Kano State has Professor D. Abdul Kadri, as well as Alhaji Aruna Ngogo from Kano State. Katsina State has two people mentioned here, Justice Isa Dodo, and then Katsina, Dr. Usman Bugaje. And then Kebbi State, Professor Tijani Bade. Kogi State, Professor Aliyu is listed, Y.O. Aliyu. Kwara State, Nuruddin Muhammad. Kwara State again as well, Professor Muhammad Yisa. And Lagos has Justice Adeshola Oguntade. Lagos as well, Senator O. Mamora. And Lagos State, Mrs. Modupe Irile. And then Nasarawa State, that means there are three candidates from Lagos State now. Nasarawa State has Musa Ilu Muhammad. From Niger State is Muhammad Ibeto as well. Now, Oyo State provides the likes of Major General Ashimiu Olani. Plateau State, Paulina Talim. And then another Plateau State name will be Dr. Aruna Bawa Abdullahi. River State will be Orji Ngofo. Rivers as well, once again, is Justice Silvanus Adero Unsofo. Sokoto State is Jamila Ahmedu Sukam. And then Honorable Kabiru Umar from Sokoto State as well. And yes, from Taraba State, Alhaji Mustafa Jaji. Yobe State is Goni Modu Zana Bura. And then Zamfara State is Alhaji Garba Gajam. And then Captain Abdullahi Uba also makes the list from Zamfara State. Essentially, I do have the list of everybody here for the six of them. And of course, of good interest is Madam now, Paulina Talib. I was asking some of my colleagues around earlier on today much about her track record and much of how she's known out here in Plateau State. And well, many say she's been favored in some past elections where she did make an attempt to gather votes and be represented as such as one would find over and over again. So we'll see in days ahead much of the nomination and much of the nomination and definitely the screening exercise that will follow through in this regard. However, as you may have noticed, the list contains 46 names now. Of good interest, some states have a duplication of names. Zamfara with 2 names as well. Sokoto with 2 names. Plateau with 2 names. Rivers with 2 names. Kaduna State enjoys with 2 other names. Lagos State has the highest number of names with 3 people from Lagos. And of course, Senator Mamora being one familiar name to me from Lagos State as well. And then all over you find different places, different names. Ekiti 1, Enugu 1, and the rest of it. Now, this somehow raised already an issue among some of the senators who received the list when the Senate President did read it out earlier on today. The senator representing FCT, Philip Aduda, raised the point of order, challenging President Muhammadu Buhari for not nominating a native of the FCT as a non-career ambassador in the list of the 46 non-career ambassadors sent to the Senate on Thursday. Senator Aduda referred the Senate to Section 299 of the 1999 Constitution that states that the FCT shall be treated as if it's one of the states in Nigeria, and that the President is the governor of the territory, and with the executive ministers of the Federation serving as commissioners of the FCT, while the National Assembly shall serve as the State House of Assembly for the FCT. Now, Senate President Bukola Saraki noted the point of order by the FCT senator and promised to communicate back to the executive for correction. Now, obviously, this means that there's need to accommodate the likes of the FCT if a review of the list will be done as communicated by Senator Saraki. However, some states may not have had their own representation in this regard. So it may raise another set of questions about who and who gets to be nominated on that list. Some even would venture to the likes of River State as well, who had 1 or 2. Okay, they have 2. But there are states who just definitely did not get much of their representation on this list. And one can only expect that in days ahead, there could be arguments as regards why they are represented or not represented. On the other hand, one would want to raise the question about federal character as well. Is this federal character idea as enshrined or as being, as we use it as a yardstick, is it helping out? Is it really getting us there? Does it mean that every time a list comes out, at least 36 different people from different states of the Federation would have to be accommodated? What would happen if you have a creation of more states, as one would possibly imagine down the line? If FCT, for example, is saying, we also deserve a spot, what about the other states? Would they also make notice that they as well deserve a spot on other lists that would come? For example, if the president were to go down the roadwork of saying, I want to revisit my cabinet, I want to reshuffle some people, and he decides to take somebody from state A or state B off his cabinet list, will there be a replacement from another state or from the same state where the person were to come from? One could think of let's say Nigeria has a state called Zangorogo State now. Would a minister who is from Zangoro State be getting a replacement? Would somebody be coming from Zangoro State to replace him in the same capacity, in the same job function? Now, this permutation, I tell you, can really be life-threatening to the political exercise over and over again. Many would say that in the making up of the cabinet ministers or the list, the ministers, it took 5 months. If there's a reshuffle anytime soon, then this could also become dramatic at some point in time as well. And of course, many of you remember that the National Assembly also made comments about the list submitted by the President regarding the Supreme Court judges that were nominated. 2 of them, many people inclined towards the fact that they're not very comfortable regarding what the President has done or what he feels in that regard as well. You as well may also remember what Governor Rochas Okorocha did say not too long ago regarding following the interview of Aisha Buhari, the wife of the president, where she made reference to the fact that some of the people being given appointments are not exactly known to the president as one would just only start to imagine. And she said that the idea that it looks like the people who work for democracy in itself are being denied the opportunity that they may have or need to have. Let me take you back what Rochas Okorocha did say regarding Aisha Buhari's interview and a little bit about the faces that maybe should be or could be, needs to be familiar in the corridors of power that are not there, who are just sitting at home, and those who were sitting at home and suddenly being called upon to serve or wait Just take the seat and wear the seatbelt and do what the driver says.
I've read the interview of the First Lady, and I was there when the Mr. President made that comment. I think both interviews and comments were taken out of context. And again, I can understand when the international community speak on this matter because of the woman right and all that is going on right now in the whole world. But I tend to believe that Nigerians will understand the situation better than any other persons in the world. Because I do not think that those were the intentions as been described on social media and has been described by all and sundry and those condemning the act. If there's a clarion call by all to say, Mr. President, look into your cabinet and bring in more people, there's nothing wrong for Mr. President to take note of the comments by people. Because if everyone keeps saying the same thing, then there might be sense in what they're saying. But that is not really the situation that should create for a big hullabaloo, if you like, this big thing we're all attracted to it. Most part of the people in the party feel that they have not been carried along. I know that so many people in the party who work for the party are complaining every day, and they want the board appointment released so that they'll be calm. The people from the southeast are saying they have not been appointed, and some people from the northeast are saying they have not been appointed. Even some people in the northwest, where the president comes from, some local government and villages are saying they have not been remembered.
That would have to be a part of a conversation not long ago, less than 2 weeks ago, as put out there by the Imo State Governor, Rochester Okorocha, who has reasons to deal right now with the mandate by workers, health workers in his state, who are also calling as regards payments and the rest of them. As you know, many states are having issues to deal with, so he has that to deal with as well, back at home. But many of you do know he's a close ally of the president, so he also did not hesitate as well to try to keep the balance, to find a bridge that would connect a little bit of the reality between what Madam Aisha Buhari must have stated alongside what the president's position is when it comes to political interpretation of who works best with him and who will possibly perform better with him. Let's move on now. Let's for a moment stop by the world of the United States presidential election. It comes up next month. Yes, you may wonder if this has anything to do with Nigeria, but to a large extent, it has its own transforming effects on Nigeria. Many of people would agree with me that the United States possibly has its own level of influence regarding what happens in the politics of the world. For example, at this point in time, Nigeria continues to visit the United States either for various meetings and have sideline talks regarding what is best for the country and what can best be derived from a partnership or some sort of collaboration with the United States. But all that may change if the philosophy of whatever the candidate that comes to power is different from what the philosophy of the outgoing president is. In this simple sense, one can only start to compare and contrast what it could be if one were to say, is Hillary Clinton going to continue some of the ideas put out there by President Barack Obama if she wins? And on the other hand, one could almost considerably say, will the likes of Donald Trump as well possibly look for all the contrasting points and pick out all the plants and leave the weed, or the other way around, pick out the weed and leave the plant in the farmyard of what Barack Obama may have built up in the last 8 years. Many areas continue to be points of fraction regarding the presidential election. Racism continues to be on the forefront, in which Mr. Donald Trump, who has been the candidate of the Republican Party, may not have done an amazing job in accommodating so many other groups of people, including the black people, black Americans who are in the United States, not to also miss out on the Latinos. However, it appears with Hillary Clinton, who's a Democratic nominee, she appeared to have picked a vice presidential candidate who is able to appeal to the likes of Latinos because of his language skill, which allows him to speak the likes of Spanish fluently and effectively and communicate and accommodate them. Also, standing strong on her side would have to be the fact, gender advantage. She's the lady, first lady possibly, who could be named the United States president if things go our way. Now, there are swing states that will determine how votes will go between these two candidates. There are traditional states that have been known to favor the likes of Republican Party, and there are states that have been known to favor Democratic Party candidates. But there are states that are also been known not to know what they are up to. In fact, the best described as the unknown states. But in the last few weeks, with much of a blackmail playing out and each candidate trying to fend off whatever the problem is in their various camp, like the Clinton campaign, trying to fight against the email server scandal which is going on, hanging over our head, while the Donald Trump camp is trying to fight the idea of womanizing and name-calling, which he has been put on labeled with for the female gender. There's more to really look at down the line. Each of the candidates has blackmails that one could possibly say are waiting to be unveiled or have been unveiled. But who would make his male black or males that have been black become white? I'm just connoting now. We would see how that would eventually turn out. But a little bit of the review of the arguments and debates yesterday night, which, by the way, a lot of media houses have characterized as nasty in nature, with name-calling, and one not deserving, as the past is known, of United States candidates who want to run for presidency. This has been an interesting debate. Let's capture a little bit of that experience for 5 minutes.
College or university, if the plan that I worked on with Bernie Sanders is enacted. And we're going to work hard to make sure that it is, because we are going to go where the money is. Most of the gains in the last years since the Great Recession have gone to the very top. So we are going to have the wealthy pay their fair share. We're going to have corporations make a contribution greater than they are now to our country. That is a plan that has been analyzed by independent experts, which said that it could produce 10 million new jobs. By contrast, Donald's plan has been analyzed to conclude it might lose 3.5 million jobs. Why? Because his whole plan is to cut taxes, to give the biggest tax breaks ever to the wealthy and to corporations, adding $20 trillion to our debt and causing the kind of dislocation that we have seen before, because it truly will be trickle-down economics on steroids. So the plan I have, I think, will actually produce greater opportunities. The plan he has will cost us jobs and possibly lead to another Great Recession.
Secretary, thank you. Mr. Trump, why will your plan create more jobs and growth than Secretary Clinton?
Well, first of all, before I start on my plan, her plan is going to raise taxes and even double your taxes. Her tax plan is a disaster. And she can say all she wants about college tuition, and I'm a big proponent. We're going to do a lot of things for college tuition, but the rest of the public's going to be paying for it. We will have a massive, massive tax increase under Hillary Clinton's plan. But I'd like to start off where we left, because when I said Japan and Germany, and I'm not to single them out, but South Korea, these are very rich, powerful countries. Saudi Arabia, nothing but money. We protect Saudi Arabia. Why aren't they paying? She immediately, when she heard this, I questioned it. And I questioned NATO. Why aren't the NATO questioned? Why aren't they paying? Because they weren't paying. Since I did this was a year ago, all of a sudden they're paying. And I've been given a lot of credit for it. All of a sudden they're starting to pay up. They have to pay up. We're protecting people. They have to pay up. And I'm a big fan of NATO, but they have to pay up. She comes out and said, we love our allies. We think our allies are great. Well, it's awfully hard to get them to pay up when you have somebody saying, we think how great they are. We have to tell Japan in a very nice way. We have to tell Germany, all of these countries, South Korea. We have to say, you have to help us out. We have, during his regime, during President Obama's regime, we've doubled our national debt. We're up to $20 trillion. So my plan, we're going to renegotiate trade deals. We're going to have a lot of free trade. We're going to have free trade, more free trade than we have right now. But we have horrible deals. Our jobs are being taken out by the deal that her husband signed, NAFTA, one of the worst deals ever. Our jobs are being sucked out of our economy. You look at all of the places that I just left. You go to Pennsylvania, you go to Ohio, you go to Florida, you go to any of them. You go upstate New York. Our jobs have fled to Mexico and other places. We're bringing our jobs back. I am going to renegotiate NAFTA. And if I can't make a great deal, then we're going to terminate NAFTA and we're going to create new deals. We're going to have trade. But we're going to terminate it. We're going to make a great trade deal. And if we can't, we're going to do it. We're going to go a separate way, because it has been a disaster. We're going to cut taxes massively. We're going to cut business taxes massively. They're going to start hiring people. We're going to bring the $2.5 trillion that's offshore back into the country. We are going to start the engine rolling again because right now our country is dying at 1% GDP.
Well, let me translate that if I can, Chris, because
you can't.
The fact is he's going to advocate for the largest tax cuts we've ever seen, 3 times more than the tax cuts under the Bush administration. I have said repeatedly throughout this campaign, I will not raise taxes on anyone making $250,000 or less. I also will not add a penny to the debt. I have costed out what I'm going to do. He will, through his massive tax cuts, add $20 trillion to the debt. Well, he mentioned the debt. We know how to get control of the debt. When my husband was president, we went from a $300 billion deficit to a $200 billion surplus, and we were actually on the path to eliminating the national debt. When President Obama came into office, he inherited the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression. He has cut the deficit by 2/3. So, yes, one of the ways you go after the debt, one of the ways you create jobs is by investing in people. So I do have investments in new jobs, investments in education, skill training, and the opportunities for people to get ahead and stay ahead. That's the kind of approach that will work. Cutting taxes on the wealthy, we've tried that. It has not worked the way.
Well, that's just a little bit of the debate from last night, essentially, with each of the candidates saying what they think and how things will get done, essentially. All right, well, at least one would know, or one would think that these candidates do have something to offer, or at least they sound like they know what they're saying or what they'll do. Very quickly, let me also share with you that the wife of the former president, Dame Patience Jonathan, was quoted using a lawyer to have said, it was when the family home in Otweke was burned down by hoodlums under the instigation of political adversaries in 2010 that she began, that's this a lawyer talking now, that she began to think about banking these gifts which had now grown to large sums in the United States dollars. This is the reason why Dame Patience has this amount of money. The house was burned down and she started to bank gifts that she was getting, which of course added up to a large sum in United States dollars. In 2010, she therefore summoned one of her husband's domestic aides, Wari Pamo Owe Imana Du Dafa, to assist her in opening bank accounts into which the funds could be deposited. Unknown to her, the said man or the said aide, in a bid to be discreet about the owner of the funds, decided to bank the funds in the names of companies owned by him. Now, when she discovered that this was done, she was constrained to continue with the names of the companies when she was advised that it did not make any difference as the ownership of the funds, since the director of the company would appoint her as a sole signatory to the accounts in question. When in 2016, I beg to say, Dudafa was arrested and detained, she had no fear for the funds as she realized that the funds could not be attributable to him once it was discovered that she was the sole signatory to the said account. It was therefore a rude shock to her when she discovered that no transaction order had been placed on the accounts by the EFCC and they believed that the funds belonged to Dudafa. All right, well, this pretty much sums up the reason why Dame Patience Jonathan has as much as $15 million in her account. The house was burned down or attacked by hoodlums, and then she decided to open an account using one of her aides to open an account, but then it decided to open an account, a company account, a corporate account, with her being the sole signatory, and down the line he was arrested, and that is why the money has been traced back to her, which legally she's saying the large sums of money being talked about were gifts given to her by various people. I'm going to leave that hanging there. But by the way, she has already threatened to sue Serap, which will have to be an organization that has been constantly speaking to the Attorney General to file a suit against them. They've been speaking to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. They issued file a suit against Mrs. Jonathan in this regard and get her to own up or possibly be convicted of financial fraud. Days ahead, we'll see how that will go. But she is suing them for as much as $15 billion. That was the last price I checked. as much as that would have to be the amount of money she is suing them from. Okay, so before we go on the show today, I will make an attempt to read the piece written out by Chiamanda Ngozi Adeche, which is titled Nigeria's Failed Promises. It's an interesting piece. I'll get to read it at some point during the show. But when I come back from the break right now, let's take the conversation forward regarding the man who was nominated for a seat on the board for the NCC, that's the Nigerian Communications Commission. He was supposed to be on the governing board, but many years ago, he pointed not just fingers, he accused, and some even has put it this way, that he harassed the Nigerian Senate. Does he deserve a seat on the governing board of the NCC? That would be a question we would ask. Is he qualified for the job, or would he have quality ideas for the job? His own argument is on one side. The senators also have provided insight into what the decision about him could be anytime soon. This is Room for Debate. Stay with me, Femidlive. I'll be back after now.
Talk show unravels your thinking, makes you stop to listen, engages you in a debate of opinions.
I believe this man knows what he is doing. He is a Nigerian.
And ultimately brings you to the king of talk radio, Femidlive.
Hold on tight, it's the weekend. The extravaganza. Real-time radio. Let's talk.
This is Femidlive.
Thank you so much for your time, and this would have to be your station, J101.9. Room for Debate is on, and I know you would get your chance to debate this. So, I will try to make this scenario as simple as possible. Well, much of yesterday was spent trying to find out and sieve out the best candidate as nominated by the president to be on the governing board of the Nigerian Communications Commission. Now, drama did unfold yesterday. Now, much of this is due to the fact that the candidate in question here had once, before now, in some time, somewhere like in Abuja and in Bauchi, taking out his time to say the Senate should be scrapped. Get rid of the Senate. They are a waste of time. They are a waste of the very, very precious Nigerian resources. And I'm sure he had many other ideas and words he used to describe him. Now, while he was being screened for the job, papers, pictures were presented to him to ask him if he still felt about how he really committed his ideas to be many years ago, asking him the very noble question, do you still think the Senate, the Nigerian Senate, should be scrapped? In the latest answer he has given to that very question, this is what he did say. I'll let you know his name in a short while right now. He said, the Senate is an avenue for wastage of scarce economic resources of the country. The Senate must go. He still took that answer to heart. He also did say, it is not true that I told members of the committee that the Senate should be scrapped. They asked me whether I was part of the group that agitated for the scrapping of the Senate, and I said yes, because of so many things involved in the Senate and their budget. They asked me to state the reasons why we were agitating for the scrapping of the Senate, and I said it's because of their huge budget. They, senators, consume a lot of resources from the government. They put it in their own budget. Also, they have transport allowance, and yet they budget a lot of money to acquire vehicles. Now, and this would have to be part of the confrontation from Occupy National Assembly many years ago. The nominee is from the northeast part of the country. His name would have to be Aliyu Saidu Abubakar. What he has said in recent times is not too different from what he said many years ago. But that's not even the point. Let me drive him. Let me get you to the part where it becomes interesting. So obviously, having reframed and possibly just made his answer a little bit softer or less mean than one would expect in recent times. He was asked again if he stood by his words that it was a waste to keep the Senate, and if the Senate should be scrapped. He said the Senate must go because something has to be done to cut down the expenses of the Senate and I still maintain that. That's his latest answer now. That's the answer of the man you know as Aliyu Saidu Abubakar. Okay, so moving on. So what did the committees recommend at the end of the screening? They said the committee had earlier listed what it described as grave irregularities as regarding this man, his personal record of the nominee. They said the committee noted that it was curious that apart from the birth certificate he provided, there were only copies of court affidavit and police extracts dated the same day claiming that he lost his credentials. Meaning, apart from the original birth certificate, every other thing pretty much was some sort of affidavits now. The committee as well noted that the court affidavit and police extracts were procured after Aliyu Abubakar had been nominated to serve on the board. They also added that the highest academic qualification that this man, Aliyu Abubakar, who is possibly been picked and has been nominated by the president to sit on the governing board of the Nigerian Communications Commission, the highest qualification he has is a one-year diploma in computer from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi. And then he attached the statement of his result, which was dated 23rd day of September 2016, just last month. Less than a month, I presume. So, essentially, a candidate who has pretty much of his life from a court affidavit, who thinks the Senate should be scrapped, who insists, by the way, that they should still be scrapped, is being asked the question, why should he be put on the governing board? Now, part of the committee members who reacted to this, the NCC chairman designate to who possibly wants to take up the leadership there, Senator Bisi Durojaye, expressed concern over the public perception of the Senate. Essentially, because it's being said that the man merely went to school for knowledge and having been self-employed prior to his nomination. In other words, this candidate we're talking about is a man who has been self-employed, runs his own business, possibly succeeded in his business for all these years, and now is being offered an appointment with the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to be part of the governing board of the Nigerian Communications Commission. Now, it's not even much about his qualification. It's about the fact that why does this somehow sound like what the likes of Aisha Buhari and Rochester Okorocha mentioned? Does the president know this much about him? For example, his academic qualification. That's one. And well, in the past, the DSS has always had a chance to dig into the life of people who are getting appointments. Did they dig into his life? Another question, just a question to ask on this. And then the final question would have to be this one. Must you be schooled now within the four walls of a Nigerian higher institution, possibly to a degree level or any of the other qualifications, for you to serve in any capacity as a Nigerian leader? Is literacy level something to question when it comes to appointments. I'm going to turn this in and out a little bit by saying some have debated that even some of the ministers that we do have who are well versed, educated, and with good experience too, who are technocrats, or at least we say they are, their performance is not up to par. Meanwhile, some other people debate about the fact that if you've ever been a businessman who have succeeded for many years and you've not run out of business in Nigeria, similar to the very simple example being said about Emesuya, as somebody who sells suya, that Emesuya does not go broke. Emesuya does not, his business does not fold up compared to an educated man or a man who would say, I'm in suit and tie. Emesuya is always there. He never runs out of business, day in, day out. For some reason, strange as it may be, people with petty trade or some level of trade which may be described as low or low life have the staying power. They turn over results. I'm asking you today, is the qualification of a Nigerian for any of the government position as important as the quality ideas he or she would bring into the discussion? Again, is the qualification of a man important? Is it as important as the quality of ideas he or she could bring into a discussion?
And now, get ready.
Keep up with Femidlive for live updates on Twitter at Femidlive, on Facebook at Femidlive, Instagram at Femidlive. All major platforms you would find Femidlive. Send your messages and email femid@live.com to keep the conversation going even now.